call us to order, and we'll start out with the approval of the agenda. And I would like to make just a very small change to the beginning of the agenda, and that would be to move the RCMP FIFA updates to the start of section E, external reports. That means it'll be our first full agenda item. So with that small amendment, I'll move that the board approve the May 26, 2026 open session agenda as amended. Second, Jake, all in favor? Okay, motion carries. And it's lovely to hear the joyful screaming of kids outside, a sign of the season, and also our delightful splash park that we have right nearby, although I'm not sure if they're splashing, but I'm glad that they're having fun. So then we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. I'm going to move that the board approve the April 28th, 2026 open session meeting minutes as circulated, and I'll include also in the motion, well, actually, do I have to include the, no. Just receiving. Okay, and then I'll note that there was a motion that was a decision without meeting from May 11th, 2026 regarding the government review contract, and that's in the it's in the meeting package if anyone wants the details. But in any case, the motion that we approved the minutes from April 28th, seconder, anyone? Sandy, thank you. All in favor? All right, motion carries. Okay, so thank you all, and welcome. Are you Officer Strickverde, or you are Officer?
No, I'm actually, yes. Yes. Staff Sergeant Matt Roble. So am I good to begin now?
Yes. So we'll turn things over to you for some updates on FIFA, and thanks for coming.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So as the chair just said, I'm Staff Sergeant Matt Roble. I'm the new detachment commander for the University Detachment, and I started here in December. I missed your last meeting because of some scheduling conflicts, and Sergeant Josh Strickverde has been the acting detachment commander for a while since Staff Sergeant Chuck Lamb left in February, I think, of last year. So I'll start off introducing myself, since this is my first meeting here for the UNA. Staff Sergeant Matt Roble. I've been in the RCMP for 20 years. All my service has been in the Lower Mainland. I've worked most of my time in Richmond, as well as in White Rock, and my last posting was in Surrey for the last 7 years, where I was in charge of the file transition as part of the transition from the RCMP to the SPS. So I was working in the operations support. Came here to the University Detachment just to get back to frontline policing, and looking forward to working in this unique environment, I will term it. I'm still learning the governance structure of this area because it has a lot of interesting differences between just a regular municipal detachment. So it's been actually kind of interesting. So the purpose of this, why we came here today, was to just give you a brief FIFA update on the impacts to FIFA to the UNA, and then I'll also offer you an opportunity to ask me any questions and clarify some stuff. So again, FIFA is coming very, very quickly, and how it impacts us directly is unique for the whole Lower Mainland, because we are what's termed as a host town, city area, along with Richmond and Vancouver, because we do have 2 official FIFA sites. The first being the National Soccer Development Centre, just up the street here. And then, of course, we have a lot of the police officers being brought in from across the country. We'll be staying here on UBC property using those facilities. So, in addition, we have about 1,200 police officers that'll be in and out of the area throughout the FIFA games. They're going to be using parking lots. There's going to be a lot of police vehicles driving around. I'm sure you guys have all seen or heard some of the impacts already. Anybody seen the motorcycles driving around? Yeah, so when I was at UEL yesterday, they were asking me a lot of questions about that. So that's going to probably be your biggest impact is the motorcades, because Team Canada is going to have motorcades in and out to the National Soccer Development Centre. And so it'll be full, like, VIP shutdown. Motorcycles will come, close intersections, come in and out. We don't have timings on that, so I won't be able to provide you. They just kind of give me a 15 minutes heads up and say, we're coming into your jurisdiction. We're going to drop people off. They leave, they come back and pick them up. As we go in towards the round of 32 and 16 at the beginning of July, we don't know which teams we're going to get, so they may be using those as well. But as far as I'm aware, it's just Team Canada that is using the practice facility here, and then the other teams will be using the Killarney site in Vancouver. So that's going to be the biggest impact for here at the UNA. The main motorcade route is 16th Avenue. So that just directly impacts that roundabout. That's the one that they've decided to use as their main route. So it's going to be short. We have no planned stoppages for any roadways. So Wesbrook Road is going to be open. I think Thunderbird Stadium, they were thought that maybe they would close all that stuff. We've heard any of those rumors. No, the roadways will be staying open. And if there's any blockages, it'll be just temporary for 5 minutes, and the backup caused by that. As well as the drone unit will be in the area to provide security, as well as just practicing for security at the games. So you may see large drones flying around a little bit more often than you're aware of. There'll be the police-sized ones. You may see them, you may not. Sometimes they fly them up really high, but just be understanding that there will be some drones in the area. Parking is going to be a bit of an issue. Again, we're going to have a lot of people in the area. They may come down. There may be police vehicles parked, grabbing food, coffee, things like that. So some of the vehicles will be marked. Some vehicles will be unmarked. So they'll be driving in and out. The local detachment, in response to FIFA's implementing an enhanced policing position, just to increase the security. So we will have more members on staff every shift that are going to be doing increased patrols around the area, providing external security and patrols around the sites. And that's pretty much about it for terms of like all the impact here. If you have any issues, feel free to contact either myself or Josh Strickler, or you can call in on emergency line or send an email through the regular channels. I'll get back to you as soon as I can and answer you any questions. Yeah, that's pretty much about it as I've gone through everything. Is there any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, we have.
Yeah, I'm sure we have a few. Yes,
Jake.
So I can't see your name, sir.
Jake. Hi. You said there's 2 sites. One's the National Soccer Development site, and what's the other one?
And the other one will be where all the RCMP members are staying. They're on site at UBC is about all I can tell you. I won't give you a name. I'm sure living in the area, you'll be able to figure it out walking around fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Due to security issues, I can't name the exact site, but they will be staying on UBC property in that area and the buildings. So there'll be lots of people in and out all the time. I don't anticipate that being an issue for university. UBC has, 50, 60,000 people commute in every day, and we're just 1,000 people of that. So we may see, rather than in the summer where it may calm down a little bit due to the student population decrease just for this period of time, it may look like it's just a regular fall and winter semester is what I'm anticipating.
Do you know the dates? Like you were talking about parking could be an issue. Do you know the dates?
I don't have any dates. During the game days, most of the people will be deployed into Vancouver to provide security for that specific game. In between game dates, they're going to find extra security work for them, and that's probably what I would anticipate, that maybe parking might be the issue, because I don't know where they're going to be deployed. People will be resting here. They may be just enjoying, because they're staying at UBC, they're going to be out walking around, driving, going to food places. Maybe there might be a bit more parking here. So.
The reason I asked about the dates is that I know in our building, we're in Hampton Place, so it's close to, so that parking in Hampton Place is already a crap show. And let me finish. There's already a crap show. On June the 11th and June the 12th, our building is undergoing parkade cleaning. So all the cars, and there's about 125 cars, will be out of the parkade, parking in and around, and hopefully not on boulevards in Hampton Place. So hopefully.
Well, what I will do for you is I'll relay that to the FIFA site commander. Okay. And hopefully provide direction not to park in that area. Yeah. To not impact it. So
yeah, because it's cars. even on their normal day, you can't imagine sometimes the arguments that start up with people that aren't parking there, and now we have our parking pass. You know, we got to park here, and blah blah blah. So.
The RCMP is paying for parking spots at some of the UBC parking facilities, so hopefully it'll minimize the impact too. I'm just thinking like people don't want to walk, so they kind of drive into the area. So I can provide direction like, hey, parking in this area is limited, so please don't go there and get your steps in. Enjoy the nice weather, right? You had
that was it. Hi, Michael Kearns. I was just wondering, with the drones, we've seen some like non-registered drones on campus. I'm just wondering if there's a way to tell what your police drones look like.
Yeah, the police ones are generally larger, like those commercial-sized ones. The personal drones are usually those little small ones. So those are the ones that I would. I'm pretty sure they don't run those little small. 450 gram micro jobbies. They have like the because I know for the RCMP drone, they have to be licensed by Transport Canada as a drone pilot, so they can fly the bigger ones over crowds
and yours have like the blinking lights on them.
They
like
can have them on, but they don't fly with them on all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a great question, actually. I think UEL had that one as well. Any other questions? No, it's kind of short. I don't have a lot of information. We're just kind of getting it as FIFA is continuing to plan. But there's be a lot of police officers over there. There's lots of parking. And, you know, the motorcades are going to be coming in and out during FIFA is the big keys that I wanted to bring forth here. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for that presentation. Maybe not a question, just an additional piece of information for the UNA directors here. There has now been a website that is available through UBC, and Glenda has or will be circulating that through UNA channels, so has a bit more information on impacts and ways that the university is trying to minimize those impacts. So that will be helpful information too.
Thank you, Carol. And, you know, I'll note that also the UNA puts out a weekly newsletter on Fridays. And if anything should come up that needs to be conveyed to as many residents as possible, certainly that's something that the UNA could circulate. So keep that in mind. And we really do appreciate the heads up and
I just had, as you were speaking, ma'am, it reminded me of the fan zone is still continuing ahead at the Wesbrook Community Centre, much like the Christmas. So for that, I mean, I'm not anticipating large crowds there. You really can't have. But part of my enhanced policing model is to have our extra patrols in and around that area just to provide an extra presence. So you should see us police officers walking around on a regular basis throughout the time period.
Who knows whose team might get people worked up. So
yeah, we're not into right now. I mean, we all have the schedule around Robins. There's nothing really out of any teams of concern for like during, is it Australia, Belgium, Team Canada? It's the round of 32 and 16 because we don't know what that is going to be.
Who will be around? Yeah.
So that's the ones that actually I think about on a daily basis. Just so you're aware, I'm still the police chief of the UEL, even though there's lots of cops coming around, so please come talk to me if you have any issues. And then I can relay it all through FIFA. FIFA is kind of like a separate command structure. Yep. So we did have some communication. I don't know if you've had any communications. There's been some FIFA people saying I'm the UBC commander. That's not the case. That's me. They are the FIFA site people over there. So just in case there's any confusion, I know there was some issues with UBC specifically with campus security and lots of people over talking each other. So that's it, unless anybody else has any major.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming out. And it's really great to meet you as well.
That's the other reason why I wanted to come.
Yeah.
I wanted to meet everybody here and introduce myself as well. And hopefully I'll be at the next meeting to answer any other questions.
Yep.
I'm planning FIFA is going to go off well. It'll be a good time for everybody. So
Yes.
all right,
That's
take
great.
care.
All right, you too. Thanks so much. All right, with that, we will move to the UBC Campus and Community Planning Monthly Report, and I'll turn things over to Carol to briefly introduce, and of course, can add any additional FIFA information if she has any.
I don't have any additional FIFA information, thanks, Eagle, but I have shared the web link with Wegland and Glenda. So I'm seeing Glenda nod that will be circulated and shared with the UNA community. The report is before you. It's a fairly short one this month, and I'm happy to answer questions or take information back to the team and get back to you later.
Ron?
Carol, is there any progress on the negotiation with the province on fire protection services?
No, we're frustrated, and I know it's frustrating. It is sitting with them, and as soon as we have more information, the UNA will be the first to know. And Paul is in regular contact with us on this, so he's keeping close track on it too. We have, in our conversations, impressed upon our colleagues the desire to get the information, and have also said that the UNA board will likely need some time to review it once we do receive it. So they're well prepped for that.
Jake?
I don't know if this is the right spot in the agenda task, but are we setting up viewing for FIFA games at all? Do you know?
So UBC Properties Trust is doing a sort of fan zone, similar to what they did during the Olympics, where they had a covered tent in the square. Yeah, so that will be set up, and they'll be airing games through that. I'm not sure there, I think on the UBC side, there may be exploration of showing games through various screens, but that's kind of the biggest sort of university situated fan zone out here at UBC. Yep. Or sorry, in the neighborhood.
I think actually 4 years ago, they had a FIFA World Cup fan zone out here. It might have even been the first one that they did.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was a hit.
Olympics, and that was great.
Yeah. It's a hit, or it has been in the past. Any other questions on the campus planning report? Yes, Ron?
I think this question is more for David. I just got my property tax from the province, and I went up 6.5%. Given that our combined service levy and property tax, that's equal to the city of Vancouver equivalent. Have we had a chance to relook at the budgeted service levy total and seeing if we're under or over?
I wonder if, Athena, do you know? But the rate is established in the ground leases, so it will never go above what the City of Vancouver tax rate is, and the service levy is the one that changes or gets recalibrated to make sure that that limit isn't exceeded.
My concern is that we budgeted for a certain amount, and when are we going to know? And that's very important, probably for the next meeting. Do we have to reduce our expectation? Okay, this is a concern I have because I'm frankly 6.5% property tax increase, and a couple of my neighbors sitting at 6.5%, which is a bit of a surprise. It's mainly school tax and Metro Vancouver.
Normally in a couple of weeks, they won't release any information until like June earliest I have seen yet. Pretty much every year, I try to kind of ask them to kind of provide information to us as early as possible, but it's never go beyond, I would say, pretty much close to the end of June. Yeah.
The concern I have is that Ken Sim was on TV today,
We've got the creaky table here,
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry.
We got one too. And so Ken Sim was on TV and he made a point talking to national news how he's keeping the budget tight. And I know we kind of we're in the backwash of your motorboat when it slows down when it comes to finances around here.
I think the one thing that gives us a small level of comfort is the model that has been quite helpful in past years of demonstrating accuracy, like pretty close accuracy for budgeting purposes. I don't know, Athena, if you would have anything different to say about that, but I think the model has worked pretty well in terms of helping the organization budget. And then, of course, there's always going to be fluctuations within that, but it has served the organization well it is a model, so there's levels of accuracy with it, but it's been a helpful tool for sure.
As always, I'm sure that our team will keep an eye on how those fluctuations affect us, and it'll come back to us if it does change anything in terms of the revenues expected from the neighbors levy. Okay, any other? Yeah, Michael.
Just a quick question about the farm substation project in the development update. Where's the access to that? Like, is there a date? Is that gonna be any like major road closures or anything?
No, I don't think so, Michael. I'll find out more information, but I don't anticipate any impacts. If there are, we'll for sure let Paul and Wegland know, and they can circulate that to you.
Okay, anything else? All right, great. Thank you, Carol. And moving on to the electoral area A newsletter, and I'll just note that it was included in the meeting package, Jen McCutcheon's latest newsletter, which came out pretty recently. And I'll also note I met with Jen McCutcheon last week, had a nice conversation, and she's still, although she actually coaches her kids soccer, I think, or some kind of, or maybe it's track and field at this very time. So she can't make our meetings. She remains very open to communicating with us, meeting with us if we have any issues to discuss, and to answer questions about her representation on the various Metrovan committees on our behalf and the behalf of all residents of the electoral area. And also just a note that the election for electoral area A representative will be in October. So it's coming up, and Jen McCutcheon, I think she noted in her newsletter, she will not be running for re-election for that. And so in due course, there'll be some kind of announcement that, there's an election and this is how you put yourself forward for nomination. I think you need a certain number of signatures, and it's something I think that it would behoove us at the UNA to publicize, just to make sure that any interested in promising candidates could become aware of this possibility. And so I'll ensure that we get that into our communications channels. Are there any questions related to electoral area A? Okay, so with that, we'll move on to the May management report, and we'll start out with Paul and the CAO's report.
Thank you very much, Eagle. The CEO section is in front of you. I think a relatively similar reporting period as one would expect. Things quiet down a little bit in these parts as the campus life academically eases a little bit. Happy to respond to any questions the board members may have about what's included in the report. I guess in terms of highlights, I was going to highlight on the fire services discussion. Just frankly, there's no news at this point. And that's not unusual for this process. It seems to kind of come late once the province and City of Vancouver come to agreement on an agreement. I did want to just highlight for the board the decision without meeting and the approval of the consultant for the governance review that was noted earlier in the minutes. That process will kick off this week with a kickoff meeting with the consultant. As I think I noted in the discussion leading up to the board's consideration of awarding this contract, the timelines are tight. If we are going to have changes that require member approval at the AGM, but I'm reasonably confident that we'll be able to complete the work in time to at least get the bulk of anything that needs member approval, of which there are only a fairly narrow range of things that would need to go to the AGM. Most of the kind of governance changes that may come out of the discussions based on the terms of reference would be changes to at the bylaw and policy level that the board can make without having to go to the AGM. So as I said, kickoff. The key thing will be directors watching for the invitations. There'll be invitations to interviews with the consultant. And that's really the most time-consuming part of this process probably is trying to nail down those interview times, ensure that we get through that relatively quickly so the consultant can gather information from the members of the board and your perspectives. So that's probably the key thing to watch for. I would expect that in the next couple of weeks you should see those kinds of invitations. We can get that done in a timely way. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have.
Jake?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Paul says for the 5 directors that are here, that, you know, a lot of what this consultant is going to write about, and she needs to hear from us, so we have to make ourselves available on a timely basis, otherwise this will drag out. So, and I hope the 2 directors that aren't here get that same message. 2 questions. Any update on the continued discussions with UBC and UBC Plus and CP on the implementation infrastructure capital funding and parking?
There are. It is an item that's in the closed meeting this evening, so I wasn't going to update at this point, but we can have a conversation with that meeting later on.
How about the parking? Same with parking?
Parking. So a letter did go to our MLA, and we haven't gotten any response.
And that's a closed agenda item. Yeah.
The fact that the letter is okay.
Okay.
There continues to be discussion with the province around the legislation that they've put in place, and I'll highlight perhaps some more of that in the closed session as well.
Ron?
I noticed, Paul, you've got risk management down as one of your points. Have we started the insurance review process?
Yep. Thanks for that. This is the time of year where Wegman and his team, operations team, start to have the conversation with our broker about renewal, and we'll be bringing forward that information in the not too distant future. So we started that process.
Okay. Sandy?
Yes, I'm wondering the human resources, the last one supported UNA processing conversion of benefits program. What are that benefits program? Thank you.
So we offer our full-time employees a benefits program at the UNA with a provider that's been the provider for quite some time. You will recall in maybe 6 months or so ago, we had a report to the board about going out to market to look at what the opportunities were. We have landed on new providers who are making that transition from the current benefit provider to a new provider, and that will be kicking off at the beginning of July.
I also noticed that there is employee benefit insurance implementation. It's mentioned that the UNA is now eligible to, I know it's later on, I'm not sure it's related to this benefit program. The UNA is now eligible to participate in the Union of BC Municipalities Benefit Program. Is it same or different? Thank you.
It's similar. It's through the UBCM that we're able to find more financially beneficial provider of the benefits program. And it will be transitioning to Blue Cross as the provider. And that's through a UBCM program where they act as the broker for municipalities in British Columbia. And we participated in that program with them and gained access to the Blue Cross program.
What are the conditions now our UNA is eligible? Before that, we are not eligible. What are the condition now we comply with? Thank you.
There weren't any conditions. I think over time, UBCM has modified some of their programs to allow, we're not a municipality, but to allow membership within the UBCM and take advantage of some of their programs, but not all. So legislatively, UBCM can't offer, or the municipal insurance program can't offer all of the programs to the UNA because we're not a municipality, but this is one, the benefits program that we're able to take advantage of, as is the procurement program through Canoe, which is a kind of collective procurement program that we have also been able to take advantage of through our membership with UBCM.
Okay, any other, Michael?
Thank you. Paul, I was just reading through the risk management points, and I'm just wondering if there's any sort of update or on your the communications with the UBC regarding worker and affordable housing, as well as the communications with the City of Vancouver Fire regarding the fire services.
No specific update on the two kind of advocacy letters sent by the board on the worker housing. I would note that UBC PT Properties Trust has indicated to the UNA that one of the buildings in the neighborhood is being opened up for UNA staff to be able to access the program. It's not at the level of staff, UBC staff and faculty housing, but is an initial step forward in that regard.
Which building is that?
Symphony.
Thank you.
Well, and I'll just note, because it's relevant, I guess, to this, is that later in the meeting, there's an agenda item relating to publicizing the UNA's letter, advocacy letter around rental housing in particular. So we will be discussing this more at that time. Any other questions for Paul on his CAO report? Okay, so moving on to communications and Glenda.
Thank you, Eagle. My report, nothing really to highlight, but just one correction on the target launch date of the UNA help page. It says early May, late June. It's late May, early June. And it actually launched today. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on the communications report? Okay, thank you. Not hearing any, we'll move on to the recreation report. Just as a note, Dave can introduce his report as normal, but we do have a separate agenda item regarding the quarterly report coming up as well. Dave?
Yep, good evening to everybody on the board. So my monthly highlight report is in front of you, and if you have any questions, I'm here to answer. Anything pertaining to the quarterly report, obviously we'll be presenting that later.
I have a question that is probably relevant to both reports. However, I believe it comes up here in this monthly report. You mentioned ongoing issues around storage in the community centers, and this was something I've been wondering about for a while. So we have a works yard, or is our works yard? It's not, our new works yard is not completed, right? Okay, so maybe though Dave and or Wegland can speak to the possibilities in the future of locating some kind of temporary storage at the works yard, like a container or something like that, for things that don't need to be used as frequently, but need to be used periodically. It seems like most municipalities and quasi-municipalities have that kind of, remote storage opportunity.
Great to point that out. Actually, I can answer that one. It's my intention to bring forward in either next month or the month after, looking at an emergency storage offsite location, which involves CCANs just down here on Southwest Marine Drive. Which is the same location UBC uses for some of their recreation offsite, which is, as you said, the seasonal stuff that can be brought back and forth. So I will be bringing that forward to the board.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on recreation, bordering on other things? Okay, thanks for now, Dave. We'll be back to you shortly. Operations and sustainability, and Wegland.
Thank you, Eagle, and good evening, everyone. The report is in front of you. Happy to answer any questions. Just one minor item that was not mentioned in the report is just quick notes regarding at the beginning of in May, UBC contractors will begin removing high-risk trees around the UNA urban forest area. And the work is to addressing the hazard trees identified in a recent ABRIS report. And happy to answer any questions. Ron?
Okay, I've had some requests from people in Thames Court in the Bristol about the roundabout that was paved last year, the West Roundabout on Hampton Place. They're wondering when the lines are going to be put in for stopping and in the lanes, etc.
Thank you, Ron. So we are in the process of getting a quote for the line painting work around the UNA area. And one part of the project is to reinstate all the road marking that has been erased during the road repair project. We are waiting for the quotes to come back, and as soon as we get the quote, we will intend to get it fixed in the earliest opportunity.
Okay. Your follow-up?
Okay, just to follow up on the same street, where the pavers on the south carriage on Hampton Place that were to be being scheduled to be replaced. Do we have a time frame for that?
Thank you, Ron. So for that repair and the restoration project, it's currently in the street and landscape permit application process. We have submitted the permit and waiting for UBC review and feedback. So as soon as we got some feedback, and then we will be able to provide a more accurate timeline, and we will circle back to the board on that one.
I have a couple of questions. You mentioned that the water consumption study that is underway, but also that there are some challenges around getting the data. And I'm wondering, is even before all the data's in, is the majority of the water used by the UNA sprinklers or water features? And if it's other things, what are they?
Thank you, Igor, for the question. So in terms of the UNA water consumption, is to review all the utilities account that we have with UBC utilities. And with that account, we are analyzing the water that's related to irrigations, related to the facilities like Wesbrook Community Centers and Oban Community Centers, and then and also related to the splash park. In terms of the water feature, we don't have a specific utilities account that dedicated for water features. And we are in the process of working with our municipal team to clarify if there's any of our irrigation account that is connected to our water features that we have. And at this moment, we are working with UBC to getting the most updated report. And we are also working with campus and community planning to streamline the whole process in terms of analyzing our usage. So I think I will leave it at that. But in terms of the highest consumption that we have for the water consumption, if I recall correctly, one of it will be the Wesbrook Community Centre because we do operate a splash park in the area.
Yeah, and I guess going forward, it I think will be valuable for the UNA and for the board to know as well if there's water consumed that's not sort of charged to the UNA, but for public water features. So if it's properties trust that's paying for example, or things that are separate from stratas and residential and commercial facilities who have their own water and water metering, but just because the public realm is governed by multiple entities, I guess you could say, it'd be helpful in terms of policy and thinking about water measuring and conservation going forward if we have a full picture of that. Michael?
Yeah, I just want to follow up with that. This is a very frustrating topic for me. This is something that I feel like I've been asking for quite a while. And it was very troubling to see that the front page of the Campus Resident featured a news article sort of touting the eco services associated with the sort of main water features that are running through Westbrook Village without us knowing the quantity of fresh water that's being inputted into that system, how that system works in terms of its recirculation. There was a quote from you in there saying that it's topped up, but that top up is a loaded term because what does that even mean? What's the amount of the top up? How does that top up work? Like, it's very frustrating to me to see an article like that printed, knowing that we have not seen any numbers for the board, and I've been asking them for over a year now. So I'm just wondering where we are with that, and if we can get that ASAP. Just whatever documents are available by whatever organization within UBC, within the UNA, on water usage.
Thank you, Michael. Maybe I can provide some information about the water feature that you mentioned. So in terms of the article from Campus Resident, they reach out to myself, and also they reach out to Bud Fraser from Campus and Community Planning. So in terms of the article response, myself was working with Bud Fraser, who has the technical knowledge with his team to draft an answer. And in terms, I do understand where your frustration is coming from, especially for the water feature that was mentioned as a top-up. That is specifically that top-up water feature is Mundell Pond. And for that water feature is currently managed by UBC Property Trust. And unfortunately, I do not have the purview to look into their consumptions. It is something that we are working with campus and community planning. When I mentioned about analyzing water feature, is to hopefully we can do a streamlined analysis with a cross-organization consumption, because UBC campus and community planning should have a more transparent and access to the consumption data with the Mandel part. So we are working on it, and we will hopefully be able to share more information with you. And definitely your desire to get more information about that is well noted.
And just a quick follow-up, in your operations report here, it sort of states that we are now under Metro Vancouver water restrictions level 2. Does that apply to UBC PT and their managed water features in addition to our water features?
Thank you for checking in regarding the water restrictions levels. So for the water restrictions, it's a recommended consumption and usage within the UNA area. We are still missing the key part of the, if I understand correctly, is the bylaw part in terms of implementing the water restrictions. So this is, at the moment, we are recommend all our strata to follow the restriction level 2. And for the UNA operation, we are strictly following the water restrictions level 2 guidelines.
So all UNA managed water features are going to abide by this bullet point saying that all aesthetic water features such as fountains cannot be filled or topped up?
That is correct. So we are following, we have shut off all our irrigation as well as part of the response for the water restrictions plan. But from time to time, we do receive notice from our residents regarding some irrigation system may be leaking or perhaps it's running. So our team do address it from time to time. But in general, we have implemented a full shutdown for the irrigation system.
And so what are the features that fall outside of our purview in terms of, like, is UBC PT operated water features going to follow this? And if not, which ones are they?
Maybe I'll take that. So that would be up to Properties Trust as to whether they follow the recommendations from Metro Vancouver. There's no bylaw that applies. UNA takes that recommendation on and applies it to all of our operations. Whether Properties Trust or any other private property owner follows those guidelines is up to those individuals. So whether it's stratas, Properties Trust, whatever the case may be. But all we can advise the board on is what we're doing for UNA operations.
Oh, can I speak just right? Can we convey to UBC Properties Trust our view as an organization that we believe that it's important to follow these guidelines? In other words, to make sure that they're well informed about what the water usage restrictions are at this time, and to let them know what it would take for them to meet the guidelines there. In other words, it'd be a little more proactive, I guess, with Properties Trust. Yeah, I'm assuming that we at least provide information to stratas about the water restrictions, and again, hope to play that role with Properties Trust as well.
I would just like to see, please, a follow-up to this meeting where we just have a list of the water features that we manage and a list of the water features that UBC PT manages. Very simple. I'd just like to see that, because I don't know what that is, and it's part of and parcel to what I've been asking for, I believe. And also, I believe that some of them, according to some conversations we've had, are being transferred to our management at some point, or there's sort of a rollover. No.
It's a work in progress. It's not transferred yet.
Okay. All right, thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the water restrictions and regulation issue? Yeah, Carol?
I just wanted to jump on the conversation. I know, Michael, you and I have had some email exchanges. So just to let you know that Wegland and I are also working on that request. And as soon as the person's back with the data, we'll be able to send you the information you're looking for. The other piece of work underway is an integrated rainwater management plan, which is an updated policy piece. There's a current integrated rainwater management plan from 2017, and this is another part of the implementation of Campus Vision. So many of the things that you've highlighted are important, definitely important things to clarify. And through the integrated rainwater the update to the IRMP, there will be some of that clarification through that document. So that's another piece of information that I think is part of the puzzle here. And when that's complete, that might be something that the Land Use Advisory Committee also wants to dive into.
And also, I know this is looking a bit farther ahead, but as the specifics of the plans for Wesbrook South start to be developed, of course, I think there's going to be a different approach to water than there was even 10 years ago. Yeah. But it's certainly something where ample consultation with the UNA and with residents more widely to ensure basically that the water features that are put in place and the systems of managing rainwater there are in keeping not just with the neighborhood climate action plan and all that, but also with the values that we hold as a society, and that includes, the residents and voters of the UNA. Okay, anything else on operations, Sandy?
Yes, I saw that is myuna.ca help soft launch recently. I checked. It's just a show there. I think very helpful, and just want to know, did you get some asking for help and feedback, and also related to, we also have Zoho tickets, right? So what the relationship? How can our residents identify the difference? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for checking in for the myuna.ca help. It's actually just launched as of today, maybe 3 hours ago. It's a soft launch. We will, and then in terms of the feedback, I don't have any metrics or feedback coming in from the patient, but happy to share with the feedback in the upcoming board meeting, perhaps in June or in July once we have more information. And what the myuna.ca help is it will integrate and consolidate all our support ticket or support email into help@myuna.ca, and within the background is supported by the Zoho ticketing platform. So in terms of the usage, the residents should not see any difference in terms of changing of how they use of the system. It will still either going through the email or they can submit it through the form. And our team, whether it is the recreation teams that overseeing some of the programs or recreation specific questions, or versus the operation side, for example, municipal ticketed, will be followed up by the UNA operations team. So I don't foresee there's no specific differences between the current, the help versus the Zoho form, and it should be a very seamless integration for our future ticketing requests coming from the residents.
I'll just say that that's great, and it's clearly a team effort to get this up. And I have to say, it is now clear where to go for help on the website. It says UNA help. You click UNA help, and you have all those options for the kind of help or note that you want to send, and it's great. But thank you for that, and hope it goes smoothly. Yeah. Are there any other questions on that? Okay, thank you, Wegland, and we'll move on to the finance report. Athena.
Good evening, directors. My report is before you. Happy to answer any question. Maybe I just wanted to mention a little bit more about that employee benefit program, just to clarify maybe some confusion that you have. This is not a new program. It's exactly the same as the existing one, which we have, I think, over like a decade. It's exactly the same program, but because we are now qualified under this carrier, I would say. So we have actually bigger bargaining power than we are individual society trying to kind of get the rate down. Because any claim, it will kind of jack the rate up. So this is actually a great, I think, it's just one of those opportunities. It will be hard to pass on. So I think the UNA grab on that, and then it will have some saving to our benefit program. So just want to elaborate a little bit more on that one. Yeah. Happy to answer any question other than that. Yes.
Ron?
Athena, you're on the audit committee for the Neighbors Fund. Has there been any feedback to you on the status of the audit of the Neighbors Fund?
I had a meeting with them. Yeah, thank you for the question. I had a meeting with them before they closed the book. So is that I think late March. So the agreement is like in the beginning of June. We will so including all the feedback that we have, we will provide it to them. So far they're still in the process. So there is just like our book because we close relatively. It's still relatively soon after closing, so they would not have any comment. But definitely they will be able to consider the feedback that we have in regards to what you have provided.
Thank you, Athena. Any other questions on the finance report? All right, thanks so much. And we will now move on to the recreation seasonal report. And Dave, you want to say a word or two to introduce it?
Yes, once again, hello to the board. So in front of you, as we've discussed previously, is the winter report. So this runs for the months of January, February, and March for the Recreation Center. And if you have any questions in regards to the information provided, I'm here to answer those.
Okay, Jake.
Yeah, a couple of questions. Great report. Lots of reading there for sure. You know, it definitely shows that, you know, we've got a very active, complex program going on out there. And, you know, recreation is obviously core to UNA services, so it's great. A couple of quick questions. I don't know if you want to get into those questions I sent you by email at this point. Or let me ask these other ones and then you can get into that one. Okay? Okay. The programs, are we optimizing programs based upon true analytics and priorities? Or how are you optimizing and adding programs?
Yeah, so great question. I hate to say this, but a little bit of both. So what we do is we do plan about 6 months in advance. What we do is we bring up the previous 3 years of seasons and what programs have done, what have been the patterns, if they're starting to drop off. So we do take a look at those factors. We also factor in making sure we're meeting a broad spectrum of needs through there, as well as making sure that it's a bit of a balancing act, making sure that we've got programs that are potentially subsidized so that they're free to the public to be able to take, especially in our seniors and in our teens areas. And then we have others that we know there's going to be a profit in that, and we use that to be able to subsidize the others. So it is really a bit of a juggle in what information we use, but we do review it every season, as we are just right now. We're planning right now for the fall of this year, 2026. And so what's happened is they've recently just given me the document which has all the previous information on it. Yeah. And so we'll go through, do a plan of that. And then we also take, as we've sort of seen recently, some community input that's come back from that.
Yeah. It's also important to note, and I know Dave almost always does this, but did this time. our planning is also based on the recreation services study that we did a few years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And so that laid out through community input the priorities that the UNA was going to, so that's where we focused on installing those priorities. So we're getting close to the time, probably next year in the budget discussions, we'll be talking about a revised plan, which will then relook at those priorities.
Yeah, it was, the question is really like, we're using analytics and we're going about it smartly versus, well, this is what we used to have and that's what we're going to do again, and whether people like it or not. The other thing, and it comes back to about analytics, there's a number of references in the report about verbal feedback, lack of attendee survey data, limited tracking, and then need for improved feedback and analytics. Do you have analytical bandwidth available? Or do you need help in that area? Does the department need help? Is it a software thing? Is it people?
It's a process more than anything. So we do our best to try to get feedback on everything that we're running. And quite often what we're finding is that it's typical to what we see in the industry, which is you hear from 2 or 3 people who aren't happy and you don't hear from anyone who is happy. Pickleball. And so, yeah, we get into that a little bit. We are looking at the processes that moving forward of how we can better get reviews of the programs that we're doing. And then kind of reversing that back just a little bit to what Paul spoke to is the culture and recreation review helps us get that on a larger scale, because the way we've done that in the past is it's not just online stuff where people can answer questions. It's also forums where people can have open discussions. And it did help us guide a lot of the stuff we do. So we do ask for feedback from all participants in all programs at this time. However, the information we get back is extremely limited.
Okay. So it's really the feedback that you're getting or lack thereof. It's not necessarily like if you had lots of feedback, you could analyze it.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. This is a really broad question, and maybe Paul can talk to this one more. It's really that the demand obviously is outgrowing the growth of the community. I mean, how are we going to address that as the UNA over the next, let's say, 3 to 5 year horizon?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think if we look closely at just on a square foot basis of recreation facilities for population, and you compare that to other municipalities in the Lower Mainland, the UNA community is well served from a square foot perspective. We continue to have our challenges with capacity, and I think, as you've heard, I think repeatedly from Dave and his team, is that those very popular times are jam-packed full when everyone wants to use the facility, and those shoulders outside of the prime times are where there is capacity, and that's just the nature of how people want to use things. We do touch on it in the later report on the teens and tweens and some of our suggestions around next steps out of the community feedback that we've had. And I have started the conversations with both UBC Campus and Community Planning and Properties Trust about the future in space availabilities. There is space planned for Wesbrook South. That's part of the neighborhood plan. And there may be other opportunities between now and then. That's a little bit out in the horizon, but we are starting to have some of those conversations about what might be possible, even from a perspective if there is space in projects that happen between now and the sort of larger build out in Westbrook South, that there's leasable space, and then the board could consider whether that's a viable or advisable use of our budgeted monies to lease space. I think there's a a number of different possibilities. But even just last week, we were having this conversation with Carol and Aubrey from Properties Trust about what the possibilities may be. So it's certainly an area for advocacy, and we'll keep looking at seeing what we can do, including, our most recent conversation was whether we can look at some potential future expansion to this facility and adding something on somewhere somehow. Big questions around funding and all that sort of stuff, but it's recognized, and it's certainly part of the conversations that we're having.
Well, it's good that, it is on top of the stove someplace and not to be forgotten about, because obviously it's popular, and the community is growing, and there's just going to be more and more pressure for space.
One thing to note on that too, which I think speaks to this community, is our actual percentage of engagement per capita of the community is higher than a lot of the lower mainland areas. So I think that's a really big thing to note. And that's one of our challenges, is that everyone sees this, they're active in it, they're involved in the community, which is good.
Yeah, sorry. Can you talk to the last set of questions I emailed to you?
And I would say that some of those, you'll have to decide, you two together, which are most appropriate to talk about at the meeting, and which are largely informational to, for your benefit, I guess. So, feel free to answer the ones that you think are most important to address to the board as a whole.
Certainly. So I did receive some questions from Director Weeb, and basically it was all around the UNA account and the card that we could receive. The information is that anyone can open an online UNA account regardless of their location of residency. The only difference is that you cannot sign up for a UNA card depending on where you live to get discounts unless you live here within the UNA. Then trying to get and I'm happy, I'm going to follow up with you yourself with the answers to each specific question. The other issue that we have is under our current registration operating system, we don't have the ability to identify beyond UNA resident and non-UNA resident. So when we get into UBC students, when we get into general public people, they're all lumped into one group at this time. And we've not been able to get that with the current system we have. So it's, with these questions coming forward, it is one of the questions that we're kind of going to be looking at. And it's something that when we start looking at the next cultural review, is that information we do want to have. Even for UBC itself, there's a struggle. They do use the similar registration system, but their IT has changed it a bit. They have difficulty when I'm asking them to provide us with how many UNA users are using their facilities, and they're not able to identify things like unique usership. So one person, could be using it 15 times, one person's one time. They're not able to do that, and then they're not able to separate different other groups that in there. So we're in that same problem as far as what do we call that? Our system that we have.
Okay, are there any other questions? Michael?
I guess it's there's so much good data that you have here, and I think I'm just wondering, like what's the plan for utilizing this data, especially as we're sort of looking towards creating or possibly getting more space as Westbrook South gets built out. Like just a cursory overview of it points towards very definitive like gymnasium needs. But I'm just wondering if that's not a comprehensive statistical analysis of how space is used and what spaces are used, what types of spaces are used. And I think I'm just wondering if we're doing some sort of like more statistical based analysis of some of this stuff to really think about what we should be pushing for, advocating for as we possibly get more space in the future. Because I mean, like, it seems like it would be a gymnasium, but but is that really the best use? I don't know. Like, there's so many different ways to analyze data that maybe it's actually like, I don't know, another multi-purpose room. I'm not sure.
Great question, a great statement. Yes, we do use this information. We use this information especially when we do get into our program planning, our rentals, who's using what facilities, what is the priority of those, what is the want of the community around us. If we're looking forward to, as we go through time, like if we were to expand or gain other space, we would certainly be able to put together a report that pushes to us, that puts forward what is the priorities. And as you speak to it, basically, I would say the number one would be a multifunctional use sport. You have multifunctional use rooms that can be either a gymnasium or anything along that terms. I mean, that's what's the biggest benefit to community centers, is rooms that can host multiple different things. But just so you're aware, all the stuff that's in the appendix, all those reports, we as a staff meet and go over those, and we not only go over them each season, but once a year we have a retreat and we go through those, and they help guide us in the different directions that we want to go on that.
And again, I want to emphasize the importance of the recreation and cultural review on a periodic basis. We're coming up with that again. And that will allow us to potentially, with a consultant, dig deeper into some of those results and data, just to identify what those priorities should be for the next 5 years of priorities under the plan.
Could you push your button there, Michael, your button? Thanks. Oh, yeah, and that next review, the timing will be good. Of course, the timing is always good. It's, to get new and updated data and sense of where the community is and what its needs are. But timing is also good because it should come at a time when we're moving in the direction of a more detailed planning of the Wesbrook South structures, as well as, the opportunities the UNA might have to shape whatever spaces the UNA may wish to make use of over there. So again, I think that's a good instinct that Michael's articulating here, and that review will be important for our advocacy and collaboration with UBC and UBC Properties Trust moving into the development of Wesbrook South. Are there any other questions on the seasonal report? Okay, well, yet again, thanks, Dave, and all your team for putting together a really detailed report, and one that acknowledges its limitations, as I think Michael points out. I mean, that's important to us to be aware of from a policymaking standpoint, and so it's really much appreciated.
There's no recommendations for that report. There's for the subject. Okay.
And actually, now we'll move on to the next item, which does have some recommendations. That's the teen and tween programming report, and this will be Dave again. And I'll just say, Dave, I'll ask you to introduce the topic as well as the recommendations that you're making here, and then I think I'll move us into just questions and discussion before entertaining a motion. So turn things over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. This has been a really actually unique one because some variables outside factored into this whole decision on where us to review this position. We were approached by a group here at the board level to discuss what we were doing for this age group here amongst recreation. It was a very unique and good discussion where we did find that our registered programs and stuff that people get involved with are doing very well with our youth. Where we do struggle is providing just an open, free space for them to use, to be able to drop in, to provide an individual who in that time period will guide them, help assist with things, talking about professional days, because that's one challenge we have, which is it may be a holiday or a professional day for the school, but it's still a working day for everybody here. So our programs are still running. So we took a look at all of that factors. During this same time, one of our staff members was promoted into a different position, which brought us back to reviewing in full the youth position, the youth coordinator position. What it did is we looked specifically at what was being asked of us in this meeting and sort of determined some of the problems. And some of the problems that we had is that, you know, being here when the youth are here in the facilities and making that a priority over just programming for the youth. So what we put forward to the board from this, after some, you know, good discussion, is two factors that play in here. Number one is we're looking for the board to approve a staff increase to the youth program coordinator to go full-time at 37.5 hours per week. This would come with ensuring this will be the first position here within the recreation department that will have set hours. In other words, they're going to come in the mid-afternoon. They'll be here into the evenings, which is when our youth are here, Tuesday to Friday, and they'll also be here on the Saturdays as well, giving them the days off of the Sunday and the Monday, which are our least impacted youth days. So we're asking for the additional costs and to be allocated for the 2026-2027 budget. And then secondary to this, we're asking the board to look into being an advocate in favor of future dedicated spaces, particularly for our seniors, so that we can dedicate the room that we have 100% to our youth and be able to provide that space for them as a consistent drop-in, to be able to design it specifically to them and to take away this crunch that we have right now between our seniors and our youth. And that would involve working alongside and advocating with Properties Trust, Campus Community Planning to identify potential options out there for particularly the seniors. So this is before you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there questions? Yes, Jake.
I think it's a great initiative. I think it's great you jumped onto that shortly after, you know, the presentation was made. It's obviously important, and I'm glad it, you know, came to the surface quickly. So I'm totally supportive of this.
Sandy?
Regarding the seniors center, do you already in your mind the target property? It's not in Wesbrook Community Centre?
Do I have something in my mind? No, really. But I do look at things the way that we've been able to partner with Campus Community Planning Properties Trust to look at putting daycares into some of the property businesses that are going in. Is that an option? Is retail space an option? Both groups are becoming larger and they're in demand of space, and they're trying to share a room that's half the size of this one. Right, and it does lead to the conflict. The easiest group to look to plan for the future would be the seniors group, just because they require specific things for themselves. Where the youth group, that room's already set up for youth. It originally was just youth. So there is no official plan at this point, but it is something that would be something Paul and I would have to have discussions with, and Paul would sort of lead this in discussions with any other entities at the table.
I think it's just really important to note that it's not a short-term initiative or short-term solution. It is a few years out. And so it's really about, and frankly, it may be more generic than moving seniors into a senior center, and maybe some other combination of things. But what came out of the discussions that Dave's team has had with the community is that, and internally, is that that is it's not a conflict because we do always want to have our facilities as welcoming and open to all. And that connection between youth and seniors is often quite an important connection and can be built off of in terms of building community. So we don't want to separate that too much, but recognizing that given the needs and the focus that was being expressed, we could and should look at what other opportunities are there. It's a big question. It would require not insignificant funding from the UNA if we were to look for at least leasing space and even a longer term horizon for some other kind of amenity space that's part of development. So it's really just, it's an opportunity for the board to put that on the list of priorities in terms of advocacy, and then we'll take that as a priority item and continue these discussions that we've started.
So actually, Carol's had her hand up for a bit, so I'll go to you next and then over to Ron.
Thanks, Eagle. Just a question for the board, and I guess I'm picking up on something Paul just mentioned as well, and wondering if this advocacy strategy in favor of future dedicated senior space could potentially be just broadened for future space, just as a thought, rather than make it definitively tied to senior space.
I think we in fact have already done that, right? So we advocated in the context of the Wesbrook South or the Wesbrook Plan Amendment for dedicated community space in Wesbrook South, and that was included in that notionally, and so I think it's a good point. And Paul, I think you just made essentially the same point, is that what we need to have enough space for as much as insofar as possible for all the different groups that need a space to get together and play games and socialize and do positive things rather than negative things. And so the way that that's configured could be affected by a lot of considerations. So I think that's probably pretty well understood by the assembled. I would add, I know that we had some hands up, but I think it's valuable, of course, to be looking to the longer term, but we have a very immediate term issue whereby the youth space, the space that has kind of been intended for youth, but has been programmed more widely because, well, to optimize the use of the space, right? Kids are in school, and then it's not a bad idea to have that be a place where seniors can play games and congregate, right? But there are occasional conflicts or you have multiple interests in using that space at given times, and that has to be managed carefully and creatively, it seems. And there's only so much you can do in the context of that single room, but you could look at what other spaces can again be used flexibly to try to address those conflict times. That demand conflict times, I guess, if you will, pro-D days, et cetera, right? I think with creative and advanced planning that you might be able to make good use of your current space. So that's the shorter term. I'm telling you things you already know, but I thought it's worth saying aloud because we've been talking here a bit about the longer term, but really it's a short term issue that's the most immediate. Are there? Ron.
We're forgetting the procedural issue here. We should be putting these motions to the floor and seconding them before we have discussion. We just had the discussion and they left these motions sitting there. So somebody's got to make the motions and second them.
Yeah, whenever we have clarified, as I said at the outset, we need to sort of clarify what the recommendations are and why, I think was the key. And when we're ready, maybe that's now, I
think it's now.
can open the floor for motion. So would you like to
Sure.
make
please
the
have-
motions as,
otherwise it'll be your own.
yeah,
Okay, motion number one, that the board approve a staff increase in the youth program coordinator to full-time and direct the inclusion of any additional costs, $36,231 within the existing fiscal year 2026-27 budget. And motion number two, that the board approve UNA advocacy in favor of future dedicated senior space in the Wesbrook neighborhood and direct staff to work with UBC Property Trust and UBC Campus and Community Planning to identify potential options.
seconded by Michael. Okay, any discussion, Michael?
Just a question. So on the first motion, the funding of the additional full-time position. So this is 36,231 on top of the existing amount. So what is that total?
72.
Okay, so we're looking for
462.
We're looking for a full-time recreational person who is dedicated, who is experienced, we're providing a pretty good salary for somebody who would be innovative and coming up with ideas and things like that. I saw the 36,000, I thought that was the amount, and I thought we were hiring a teenager to do this. Anyway, I'm glad that that's not the case. Thank you.
Further discussion, or anyone want to give him a raise? No. Sandy?
I support we take the initiative on the youth program called Leaders. However, I think seniors programs still we should support. And also seniors room. I saw some seniors usually play some cards in the room next to the entrance. And recently they moved out to the hallway kind of. Maybe they were not allowed to use that room. I think how we can balance the youth and the seniors. Seniors, I think perhaps also it's a large part of our community. And most of the time, they would like to use our community center. So I don't want to restrict seniors' room and programs to accommodate youth. So that is a problem, perhaps.
Yes, I want to be really clear. It's not changing the current use of that room by joint use of both senior programs, seniors drop-in and youth. That isn't changing. It's really just highlighting a priority for the future. But those opportunities are still available within the facility and will continue to be available within the facility until such time as there's some other option that the board wants to consider. So at this time, those things aren't changing.
But I thought they moved out to that next to the entrance, not allowed to use that room.
At times, I think things shift around. Dave, you may have to talk about more specifics.
Yeah, I'll address both of those. They weren't asked to move and they weren't kicked out. They got in a fight. So right now we have card players in the youth and seniors room, and there's a dedicated time. Card players in our lobby, and we also have card players in our music rooms. So the card players are taking up as much space as they can take, and we're advocating for them. Most recently, what we ended up having was, and it wasn't even seniors and youth, it was general users and card players in the front lobby. There was a bit of a disagreement to the levels of noise and what was going on, and some choices were made, not by the recreation team, to sort of, we're going to go over here and respect your space, is what sort of happened. I want to be really clear and advocate, just as Paul did, this isn't going to change how we currently operate the facility and the room, but by moving someone into a full-time position with dedicated hours when the students are here, allows us to do things that we currently don't do, which is we have knowledge of all professional days coming up, we now will have a professional person that knowing there's a professional day coming up, they're able to program perhaps an out trip. They could head down to Commodore bowling lanes and take a bunch of the youth down there and oversee that. So it doesn't really mean that there's going to be a full-time position means they're taking up more space. They're going to provide more opportunity to use for leading youth programs, for youth being able to drop in and just different things that the youth want to do.
I had one more. I know we're probably ready for dinner, but I had one more question. Maybe it should have come earlier, but it's related. In addition to increasing the staff time devoted to youth, was your reconsideration of youth programming going to extend to planning the programming, the array of programming in, I guess you're on to the fall programming right now, like you're actively preparing that programming? Is that something then that you're at least going into with some of the feedback that the team got from the parents whose kids perhaps were not being as well served as they had hoped?
100% correct, and thank you for identifying that. So we've added some additional youth drop-in times. They still are fairly specific as far as basketball or volleyball. However, with the success of potentially having a full-time person, will allow for alteration up during those time periods. So even though it says basketball, if one person shows up wanting to play basketball, but 10 people want to play volleyball, they'll have the ability to alter that space that they're using and share that space. We are increasing that. And then we also are, in addition to that, which has been a topic tonight, we're going to be having an area within the cultural and recreation review dedicated to, are we serving the youth of our community?
All right, thank you. Michael.
I'm ready to vote on motion 1.
So you,
just the first motion, please.
So the motions were made together. Am I hearing a call to separate the motions? If that's the case, then I think we would need an amendment. And if you would like to do that, you can. I'm not sure if there's, do you wish to make an amendment?
Yes, I would wish to make an amendment and separate the two and vote on the motion to increase the salary for the full-time position for the youth teen coordinator.
Okay, so there's an amendment proposed to separate the two motions. Do I have a seconder for that? Last call. All right, not hearing a second, we'll continue with the motions together. Any further discussion? Yep.
I guess my reasoning for that is that I would very much like to see a before directing staff to look for brand new space for seniors, dedicated for seniors. I would very much like to see it seems to me, looking at all of your reports, that the seniors have access to almost all the spaces throughout the entire UNA and can book multiple rooms that are underutilized at any time. And so I'm not sure if am I missing something here, but I'm not sure if seniors necessarily need another dedicated space just for them when they have so much space available to them already. I guess that's why I wanted to separate these two arguments, is that I very much see the need for a full-time position to coordinate the space that we do have for teens and tweens who need space at limited times. That is a very clear objective that seems to come through very clearly in this report. What doesn't seem clear to me is that we now are directing staff to look for more space for seniors when it seems like the entirety of the UNA is at their disposal.
Yeah, okay, so a couple things to think about here. So first of all, I will say that in the context of our discussion of leading to and then after the motions were made, we did specify the intent of the motion was to ensure in the future, or to look towards in the future having space to essentially to accommodate the needs of seniors as well as other constituencies within UNA. So I think in our conversation, we moved a little bit from a very specific dedicated space, although I know the motion does actually say dedicated space, but Carol's comment and then Paul's comment and our subsequent discussion of that, to me, indicated that it was a more general advocacy in favor of having and finding space in the future to ensure that seniors have sufficient space.
And that wording is exactly why I want to decouple these motions and go ahead and vote on one of them, but maybe reword the other.
So can I make a suggestion that that if someone so desires, and I would be supportive of this, wish to amend the motion to simply remove the word dedicated from the motion, and so then it would just say in favor of future senior space in the Wesbrook neighborhood, and that would be truer to the intent of our discussion. Would anyone support that approach?
I have problems with the motion as it's written that are greater than just the word dedicated. It seems like it's the fact that we are directing staff to work with UBC Properties Trust and UBC Campus to identify potential options, like that whole statement seems like it is very centric on senior space. We are already directing staff to work with Properties Trust and UBC Campus and Community Planning to identify potential options for future space for the UNA as a whole. So why are we now putting more time and effort into directing them to look specifically for senior space when, again, from my perspective, the entirety of the UNA is open to senior space?
Okay, I had Jake and then Ron.
I think we have to trust that the management are not going to just, put things in little cells all over the place, and that they'll use their judgment to, have space that's going to be flexible for whatever the programs are going through. I'm not concerned that they're going to just find dedicated space just for seniors all over the place that's going to be empty when it needs to be used for tweens and teens. So I don't have an issue with keeping the motions together.
Ron?
I support keeping the motions together. The point is, it says we're directing staff to look at potential options. That means they have to come back to the board for approval for any recommendation. So we're not really painting ourselves in the corner here. I support voting for these two things together.
So I'm getting a sense of the room that there's support for the motions together and general support for both parts of the motion. However, I would suggest, and I believe as chair, I can't do this myself, but I would suggest that someone amend the motion to remove the word dedicated, because I think it actually is contrary to the intent of our discussion. And it's clear that we're not talking about a space that is for seniors and seniors only, right? And that's, the word dedicated does suggest that.
I mean,
All right. So Jake is amending the motion to remove the word dedicated. Is there a second? Seconded by Ron.
Can I
Okay.
just make a comment?
Oh, okay. Is that a second or?
We've done almost 40 minutes on this, okay? I think we have to get on with our meeting.
So that would be a second?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion of the discussion of the discussion? Okay. All in favor of the amendment? Any opposed to the amendment? Abstentions? abstentions, one abstention. Motion passes. And
Abstaining?
I support together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Together.
yes, that's still good. Yeah. So, so it's, so the amendment passes. So now we have an amended motion as originally stated, but with the word dedicated removed. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? All right, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And with that, we will take a break for dinner, and we will reconvene at let's say around 7:25. And yeah, we don't have that much left, but we definitely need to eat before we get to it. So.
Sorry.
He's not listening.
I could go and grab him by the arm. Dave. Sorry, we're gonna get started again. We're gonna get restarted. Sorry, the entertainment is over.
7:29.
The dinner time entertainment is over. So I'm going to reconvene us, and of course, feel free to keep eating and getting seconds and cookies as needed. So we're going to move on to the Community Gardens volunteer committee review, and turn things over to Wegland to introduce them, and then I think I will go ahead and make the motion after your introduction, and we can then have discussion.
Thank you, Eagle. For this board meeting, for this board report, I will make it short. And then this report is basically in response to the previous board meeting to provide a high-level summary of the UNA Community Gardens program. And this report did touch base on a few items regarding the history, milestone, collaborations with different stakeholders, and of course, did mention a bit about the governance and operation structures. So the UNA Community Garden Program itself begins in the Hawthorne Community Garden, and it's almost 18 years ago already. And it is a very popular program and also a key program that helps us achieve sustainability and bring the community together. And the report is before you, and we are happy to answer any questions. Today, we have Sylvia, our sustainability specialist, here with us to provide more current and up-to-date information, while myself will try to support and happy to provide any historical related questions.
Okay, thanks for that introduction. And Sylvia, we'll wait until there are questions. Is that kind of your, okay. Before we move into discussion, I'll make the motion that the board direct staff to conduct a comprehensive review of existing garden policies and procedures to identify opportunities for streamlining garden operations, reducing overall wait times, and evaluating the feasibility of future garden operation expansions. Is there a second for that motion? Michael?
Sandy.
Oh, Sandy, sorry. You're pointing this way. Okay, seconded by Sandy. Thank you. We can move into discussion. There could be questions related to the report, discussion of the report, as well as the proposed review. So I will, while everyone's gathering their thoughts, having come back from just moments ago watering my own garden, I have garden on the mind and on the hands. So I'll get started, and maybe I'll outline a couple of things that come up in the report, but also I think would be helpful in the review to come, should we pass it, to keep in mind. I think we are very well aware from the report that the garden program has expanded dramatically in the last 10 years or so, and from somewhat humble and more volunteer-oriented beginnings, it became a sizable and much appreciated UNA program or opportunity for residents with a couple hundred plots. And of course, with growth and expansion, not just of the gardens themselves, but also of the population of the neighborhoods, the aspirations to get your hands dirty and grow your own food and to do something that's good for the environment at the same time. All of those things have been growing as well. So that's put some pressure and strain on the gardening program, and that's identified here. So as I've experienced this myself and watched over the last several years from the UNA board, I've seen three central issues for the garden One is high demand and ongoing high demand, growing demand. So that's the first, and that's noted in the report. A second, which is not, I think, if I recall correctly, in the report, but I think it's worth thinking about, it's that we have a concentration of garden spaces in Wesbrook and Hawthorne, and that there are no community garden plots in Hampton, in East Chancellor for sure, East Campus. There's the Acadia Park student housing gardens, but those are not UNA managed gardens. So all that's to say we have a kind of a geographic imbalance when it comes to gardening opportunities. So that's worth keeping in mind as we move ahead to review the gardening system and possibility for expansion as well. And then the community aspect of the gardens, the volunteer program, has really had ebbs and flows, and they don't always, I think, function as community gardens, although they're called that. There is a volunteer network. So it's sometimes coordinated, sometimes not so coordinated. Sometimes there's enthusiasm amongst gardeners, and sometimes not. So I think, and that's something that comes up in the report a bit too, is the need to think about the what kind of volunteer network would be most useful, and how to foster that ethos of community gardening and volunteering that gets gardeners involved in maintaining the space, both aesthetically and in terms of the gardening, the needs of gardeners in order to keep nice gardens and nice spaces. So those are all kind of things just to I would say to bear in mind, or I hope that you will bear in mind if we move ahead with the review of existing garden policies. I did have one question that stemmed from that last point about the community volunteers. In the report on, this is page 56 of the meeting package. It's in the garden. I have to hold on a second. Well, the thumbnails 56 is of the garden report. It's page 3, talking about volunteer revitalization. It says that the groups, the individual garden representatives, those groups, they currently prefer a low intensity involvement. And I was wondering if I guess, Sylvia, this would be you, if you could say a little bit more about what that means, what is low intensity to them, and why you think low intensity as opposed to, hey, let's really, come together and take care of the garden collectively. Why don't we see that kind of enthusiasm from the volunteers?
Sorry, I don't have a. Thank you. So basically, I guess the background on that is that so I've brought together volunteer groups for each garden this year. There's about 4 to 5 volunteers for each, except for Greenway North, where nobody has stepped up. And I've asked them kind of what would they want out of volunteering, and kind of set my expectations and kind of what the need is on my side for the volunteers. And everyone has been basically on the same page that they want to be able to do it as like a leisurely volunteer activity instead of establishing concrete like positions. So I brought forward the idea of, we could have someone, 5 people, have, someone on events, somebody on like repairs and cleaning, and so on and so forth. And the feedback to that was negative. No one really wanted to do that. They just wanted to be able to participate on their own. I've also brought their attention to the last board meeting discussion about creating a official board committee for the gardens, and the feedback to that was strongly negative. Having most of the volunteers who chatted with me about this, their opinion was that they would like not to see more oversight and governance and rules on the gardens, but just more people participating in the gardens actively. So those that actually have garden plots to actually have some sort of compel them to participate in the community aspect of it more.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I guess should we go ahead and pass the motion regarding the review, it would be an opportunity to reflect on how those garden committees, volunteer committees function, and if there were to be some wider garden consultation or advisory committee or something like that, what would be its role, and how might that relate to the role of the community, the individual garden committees. So, are there other questions or comments related to the gardens? Sandy?
I support this review. I used the garden 10 years ago. Yeah, I think very helpful since we live in the area without gardening, but with the community garden, it's very helpful for residents to perhaps communicate, to gardening their flowers and also make our community beautiful. So it's time to review. It's a long time ago. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sandy. This is a small thing, but I guess this is an opportunity for us to give a little bit of feedback. And so among the things I think that are worth considering in the review, there are a couple that pop to mind. There are periodically garden plots that are cultivated in a given year, and I actually went through and I counted them up, and several of the gardens don't have any. Like they're all very well cultivated, but there were a couple, and actually the Hawthorne garden had several that appeared not to be actively cultivated this year, and I think trying to understand why sometimes the gardens aren't cultivated would be useful, and in the case that someone needs to take a sabbatical from gardening, so to speak, whether they're taking a sabbatical from the university but don't want to lose their garden or whatever, we might have an opportunity to find ways to make good use of that garden space during a sort of a leave year if people intend to take one. So that's something worth thinking about. I think also it's worth considering. I know we've rejuvenated some of our gardens with the Rhodo one just got done. The Hawthorne in the past couple of years got redone in places, right? And I think some of the signs and the notice boards, the Nobel, Hawthorne, or the Rhodo, jump out at me, but they need a little bit of attention. They're kind of anyway, that they could use some attention, and they're great places for information sharing amongst gardeners. So yeah,
Yeah, I'll just quickly speak to that. Regarding signage, I'm currently working with volunteers to create some more up-to-date signage. Also, hoping to get signage in multiple languages for the gardens as well. And just your note on empty plots that's I think a huge issue to tackle. Personally, I've reached out to probably around 15, maybe more gardeners already this year. The process is that there's a violation notice because you're meant to be using the plots, which is written out in the terms and conditions of the community gardens that the gardeners sign onto each gardening year. And so I've already sent out, I don't know actually off the top of my head, probably over 20 violations for that specific situation. And I would say the feedback that I get from a lot of the gardeners is that they've been away, that the gardening season kind of starts during like the spring traveling time, I guess. So people are away. And then illnesses within the family and whatnot that kind of prevent people for gardening at a time. And then they have a week to respond to the violation, and they can get up to 3 violations before we take a plot away.
Great, thank you. That's good to know how you that you communicate with people to try to find out what's going on. That's great. Anything else? I guess I've been doing most of the talking, but are we ready to vote? Okay, all in favor of the motion to undertake a review of garden program? All right, motion carries unanimously. And thank you, thanks Sylvia, thanks Wegland for the renewed attention that you're giving to this. Of course, you have attention to the gardens all the time. I know it's pretty labor intensive. I understand that, but to just like with anything else, sometimes it's a good time to review operations, to think about how things are going, and even if things are going pretty well, it's great to say, hey, are there things that we can do better, and of course the perennial issue of the possibility of expanding gardens, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that more in the months to come. So thank you. All right, that takes us from healthy, mostly gardens, to potentially unhealthy trees, and the emerald ash borer strategy. And I'll ask Wegland to introduce this item, and perhaps he'll also speak to a revision of the motion that is recommended here, and then after Wegland's done, I will read out the revised motion, and then we can have conversation. Wegland.
Thank you very much, Igor. So for the EAP management strategy updates, just want to, before I start the report, I would like to make sure I've submitted a last-minute amendment for the report itself through email earlier in the afternoon. And it is basically results coming from a recent consultation and discussion with UBC Landscape Architect regarding the long-term ecological health of the Hampton Place tree management. And one of the main discussion that we noted is the tree replacement ratio has been updated to 2:1 based on the diameter and the size of trees that we have in the Hampton Place. And because of this updated of the replacement ratio, it has also created additional financial costs that I think it would be proven and also ideal to share and with the board about that. But just want to be clear, the updates itself of the report does not change the overall phased approach. And Finally, in terms of the alter of the budget, I'm going to quickly touch base on that while I'm going through the report. So in terms of the report, a quick introduction is the key strategy of this management plan is to make sure canopy preservation that is aligned with the overall regional strategy to prevent extreme scenario like tree sudden loss in Hampton Place or I would say financially unsustainable of preserving all the trees in the long term. And the third key objective is to develop operational clarities and to achieve financial sustainability in terms of tree management in Hampton Place. And another item that we would want to achieve through this management plan is to transition from a single species, ash, mainly based on ash tree, to a more healthy climate resilience ecosystem. And finally, the final objective of this management plan is to reduce overall risk and to make sure all the risky tree has been either replaced or there's a plan on how to manage it. This phased approach going through is a 50 years plan. It goes through multiple phases. It will first, in the phase one, it will try to keep all the high value ash tree in place through aggressive treatment that will minimize and hopefully stop the beetles spread. And while going to phase two, from 16 years onward, there will be a transition of reducing treatment for all the trees. So by reducing treatment, it means some of the trees will be eventually infected and die off, and a replacement plan will be followed. And finally, another phase out of the three, this multi-phase approaches is the deliberate diversification of and the transition to replace ash species with other climate resilient local species. Within this plan, I quickly fast forward to the recommended scenario. So there's one called option one, the lean scenario, and then there's an option two called the expanded scenario. So under the lean option one scenario, the intention of the lean scenario is to protect only the best current injectable trees, and at the same time accepting earlier canopy loss means more tree will be infected earlier, and the transition of tree species will be faster. While going into a second alternative option to a more expanded scenario. Under this approach, there will be additional treatment for the first 20 years, the first 2 decades. The purpose of this additional treatment is to smoothen out the canopy loss while giving the younger trees that we plant right now will be able to help the transition more gradual. And given there is a change in terms of the replacement schedule, so I'm going to just quickly go through the projected total cost of the 50 years strategy program cost. And for option number one, under the lean scenario with the 2-to-1 replacement ratio, the cost is at approximate $832,000. While for the option two, the expanded scenario, the cost is at approximate $914,000 for the upcoming 50 years. And generally, for those information, in terms of the updated report, it included a few new, not really new, but refined and corrected tree location map in page 11 to 16, as well as the updated cost estimate in the report under the report page 20 to 21. And just want to flag is that because we want to make sure the tree is treated on time and it is time sensitive, and ideally, the operations team would not want to delay in terms of the treatment schedule. And as part of the follow-up next step, the operations team is prepared to prepare a comprehensive tree removal and replanting plan to be submitted as a follow-up report in the next month, in the month of June. So that's about it for my introductions, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so I think first I'll make the revised motion and so that we're clear what we're talking about. So I'll move that the UNA board approve, I'll move that we approve option 2, expanded scenario as the designated EAB management strategy for the Hampton area, including an updated tree replacement ratio of 2:1 following recent consultation. Oh, sorry, I'm going to not include following recent consultation with you. So just a updated tree replacement ratio of 2:1 and authorize staff to initiate the treatment program in June. Is there a second to that motion? So seconded by Ron, and then we now will move on to discussion. And I think Jake, you start us off.
Yeah, I don't have any specific questions. I just wanted to thank both Wegland and Ron on this particular topic. Ron for his tenacity and persistence on this matter, and his continued attention to the protection of our canopy is both important and appreciated. And a big thank you to Wegland for patiently following up and responding in such great detail to the many inquiries. This level of engagement and responsiveness is valuable as we work through these matters. Our tree canopy is one of the defining features of our neighborhoods here at UBC. It contributes not only to the character and beauty of the community, but also to environmental health, livability, and long-term community value. Quite simply, in my opinion, we cannot do enough to protect and preserve it for current and future residents. So good on both of you for championing this topic.
Hey, Rob.
Just as a sidebar, I have a cousin in Markham and a cousin in Stony Creek who both lost ash trees to this beetle the last 10 years. So, no visit. Wayland, there's one, I support this motion, I support this option and this long-term plan. But there's one concern I have. And when we had the big windstorm over 4 years ago, the council at the time advocated that we need to consult with the people on Hampton Place on replacement trees, none of which have happened. Okay, and I look specifically, for example, at Thames Court next to me, and they've got a big stump there that's been sitting there for about 3.5 years, hasn't been replaced, and they're going to lose quite a few trees. So what I'd like us to do is, I think, and you should take this initiative, is to call a meeting once you have this tree plan. Because we're looking at 15 to 20 trees this year. Is that 15 to 20, or are we doubling that number of trees?
I think the removal will remain the same at around 10 to 15 trees. It's more the replacement will be updated. So there will be additional trees will be added and replanted.
Okay, what I'm advocating is a meeting so we can consult with some of these people. I know the Thames Court people will be very upset when they find out the number of trees they're going to lose. And I think in spirit, this is one of the most valuable things that people who live on Hampton Place see is this canopy, and they recognize that they're going to lose it, but they want to replace it. They want to, some short-term gain for long-term pain, for want of a better description. So I really would like us to have this consulting. I would be very willing to organize and haul some of these people up in front of you, and we can show what trees, what options they have, and then they can, feel that they're part of the solution.
Thank you, Ron, for that. Michael.
Maybe a little late to the game here, but I just had a couple questions about the option 2 extended scenario. So the 10 additional bridge trees in point 2 of the option, that is the increase from 39 in option 1 to 40. That's not an additional 12 on top of the 49.
That is correct.
So there's 79 trees currently. So we're looking at basically removing 30 in this year. Is that correct?
Not this year. So for this, you mean this year, 2026, am I correct?
Well, the 2026 treatment scope includes just 49 trees of treatment.
Treatment, correct, yes, for treatment, okay. 49 trees.
And that's out of the 76.
Correct. So those are the higher value trees that is healthy and then in good state and also meet the criteria of
Great.
treatment.
Okay, and so essentially, there's 15 trees that are will be actively removed under this plan. But then there's an additional, sounds like around 15 trees that'll be left untreated, but that will slowly get taken away. Okay, and then when we added this clarifying motion on the 2-to-1 ratio, does that mean that for every one tree that was removed, there will be 2 additional trees planted?
Depending on the size, that is correct. Okay. So the trees that we have on site are mainly between 31 dBH, 31 centimeters to 80 centimeters, and those replacement ratio will be mainly at 2-to-1. So it means one tree cut down will be replaced with 2 trees.
Species to be determined.
Species to be determined, and the species will be following the recommended tree species based on Metro Vancouver, the climate resilience one.
I too want to commend you for this work. This is amazing work. Great job.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions, comments, or words of praise?
Enough.
That's enough. Okay. All right, then we'll call the vote. Sorry, Ron.
Clarification, Wayland, you say that you'll have a tree plan for the next council meeting to present?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, all in favor of the motion? All right, motion carries unanimously. And thanks again, Wegland, the team that you drew on for this, Ron, for your persistence, and others also for those of us who went and walked around and looked at the trees. Anyway, a lot of people have paid a lot of attention to these trees, and it was worth it. So thanks. I believe that takes us to a short item of new business. And that is listed on the agenda as the public release of the UNA Housing Advocacy Letter. And I asked that this be added. In the past, when the UNA board has written advocacy letters to the Board of Governors or to UBC on something of, in the public interest, we have included in our motion to write those letters a clause that also included their public release. And I'll be honest, I forgot to do that in the last meeting. And so what I would like to do is move that the UNA board publicly release the board's housing advocacy letter approved at the April board meeting. And if you guys, we can come back to your conversation just very shortly. We're almost done, actually. Is anyone willing to second that motion to release? Jake? Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? All right, motion carries. Campus resident. You already have, I believe, a copy of the letter, so, or at least the editor does. So, great. So with that, I'll move that the board adjourn into a closed session to discuss matters relating to discussions and dealings with other entities or individuals where disclosure of the information being discussed could be harmful to the UNA's interests, and the approval of minutes for a closed session or restricted closed session of a board meeting. Seconded by Jake, all in favor? All right, motion carries, and thank you all for your participation, and we will take just a 5-minute break. So at 8:06.